Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur who shuttles between the US, or in Orange County in the US, and Dhaka in Bangladesh, Mr. Mike Kazi. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mike is the founder and chairman of Apex Homes MGT. He's also the founder and chairman of Apex Capital. He's in the home improvement and property management business. He's a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization. And interestingly, he's a Six Sigma Black Belt holder. Mike, just before we started recording, you were telling me about your amazing journey of how you started at 15 and a half. And for the last 28 years, you've been in business. Tell me in brief about your journey from Bangladesh as you built this empire.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Thank you again. I'm not sure if it's an empire. It's just trying to do my little contribution to the world, right? I started really young. I went to the States when I was like 8 years old, and then I've been living there since. And then growing up over there studying, and I started my entrepreneurship journey really young. I think I was in high school, just selling small used cars and whatnot. Had many different types of business, failed most of them, and now we're doing the home improvements. Actually, not now. It seems like now, but it's almost 15 years now, since 2008.
Wow.
9, when the market crashed in the U.S. I was in the automotive industry, and that one, it was very difficult at the time. I remember we had to close one of the stores, and then sell one for a loss, and barely hung on with one with my with my teeth and nail, and that's when we got into the construction industry, the renovations, and then of course home improvements and stuff like that. So it's what, almost 14, 15
say
years,
the rest is history. So
yeah, 14, 15 years.
Wonderful. So let's now move to Apex Homes. You are in the home improvement business. Tell me about this particular business and the kind of work that you do.
Yeah. So this is mainly in the US. So we're in I think 30 plus states in the US and 50 plus markets, where we have our own employees, as project managing those properties. We're mainly in single family homes. In Asia, I think they call it land-owned properties. Land-owned properties, single family homes. And we're getting into multifamily now also. Multifamilies are like those apartment buildings,
Right.
Basically, we have investors and fund, and we also have our own stuff too. So we do third-party work where somebody buys a property, we do the renovation, and then we lease that out. And then 5, 7, 10 years later, we exit, with the different portfolios. We make some money on the front end and on the back end also. When we do the renovation and construction work, it goes both ways. Of course, technology plays a big vital role in that too.
So you use two words. One is improvement, and the other is renovation. Is there a difference between the two?
No, it's the same. Okay. Improvement and renovations is the same. Because you buy something for like $350,000, there may be like $40,000 worth of new, depending on the area and markets. How much rent you're gonna get. So then you put different types of appliances. You put A grade or B grade. What kind of granite countertops? We remodel the kitchen and carpet and all the stuff. So we make the value better to build the rent and get a higher price on the rent.
Yeah, and you were also mentioning that you decided to get into this area when you faced a downturn in 2008. How have you seen the real estate market change since the time you started? Because I understand it's very, very hot now.
Actually, it was been an amazing journey for the last 12, 14 years. But recent days, and actually recent months, since after COVID, after the the global politics and geopolitics, and the inflation, it was so high during the COVID. Now everybody's like holding back. Not too many investors or institution investors are buying so much. The market is very unstable. It's very volatile.
Okay.
So the institutional investors and even this interest rate went up. So it's like there's a lot more properties going to be in the market. But during the pandemic, some markets went up like 30-40%, and up. And then now it seems like the bottom might fall out again. So at least that's what everybody says, and that's why there's a fear. The fear and greed, right?
Yep.
It's kind of it's a buyer's market for sure now. It was not. It's definitely a buyer's market now, but the interest rate is so high, so it's not really. It's not crazy.
And yet, Mike, when you lived in the US for a long time, but if you were to look at the perspective of South Asia, why is it so difficult to own a home, particularly because the multiple of salary is significantly higher in South Asia, the region that you and I come from, to what it is in the US?
It's just, I just think like at least in Bangladesh, or I'm not sure about India, but Asia in general, it is very difficult to own homes.
Correct.
Because of the fact that they don't give like a 30-year loan. At least I'm not sure about India, but Bangladesh, and they don't yet. They do like 10, 15 years. Maybe I think some banks are doing 20 years, but still it's not. What they're getting income is not going to pay that mortgage because the land and the property buildings are so much more expensive than even the US. Because the US, they have a lot of properties, a lot of land, so it's actually cheaper. Depending on the market too. It depends on the market. So people could pay it in times. You put like 1 or 2 or 3% down payment, 5% down payment, then you could go and go purchase a home. And you can't do that in at least in Bangladesh context. You need at least 30-40% down payment, and the rest of it is like 10-15 years loan. It's very difficult.
Correct.
But it has changed, I've seen in the last 10 years. So a little bit more about us. So in 2008, after what happened with the whole Lehman Brothers and all that stuff, we started to outsource some of the work to Bangladesh. Bangladesh and this region, we have such an amazing talent pool. So another one of my companies is called Kazi IT. So I'm in the IT business also.
Okay.
And that's where the IT business supports our business in America. So we have a center in Bangladesh. That's why I visit Bangladesh quite a bit, and I go half and half in between. So we have centers here that gives deliveries, services, all the back office, IT support, development work, app, softwares, customer service, billing, accounting, all that stuff to our US employees and US office.
Right.
So I have seen like a tremendous change in the last 10, 15 years in Bangladesh, that people are purchasing a lot more properties or cars or luxury items than even 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
The economy is getting a lot better and a lot stronger in Bangladesh in recent years than it ever did in the history,
No, absolutely. Bangladesh is now talked about as one of the brightest sparks in Asia, as from an economic perspective. They say very well managed, I must say. But moving on now, Mike, you're only in residential homes, or do you also do commercial?
So just residential. Okay. We just stay in our niche. We understand it. We've been doing it for a long time. So we kind of have a systems and process, and we built our own platform, our own software, where we're managing the whole property from end to end, from construction, from acquisition to construction to lease, rent collection. If somebody has an issue with their sink, they could just take a picture with our app and then just send it to the office, and then the contractor goes and repairs it and sends it after. So before doing and after photos, that's how we pay the contractors. That's how we bill our clients. So it's we're just staying in our niche. That's what I learned over all these years is like,
Absolutely.
do one thing really well. Don't try to be jack of all trades and master of none. It still, as entrepreneurs, I think we still love it though. We still love all the different businesses, and it's kind of cool to learn about other businesses. Like, oh, that's a good business, I want to get into it. But then if you're not passionate, or if you're not expert, subject matter expert, you get into it and then you get a big loss.
Absolutely.
So,
as they say, for an entrepreneur, whatever you look at is an opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. So you got it. So, but now I'm like holding back now. It's like, I feel like, I'm like 70 years old. Now I can't do those moves anymore. I just got to stay in my lane, like those are from all the failures,
Well said. There's another perspective I'd love to get from you, that the younger people, the millennials and the Gen Zs, I'm told, are renting homes more than they're buying, especially when they look at their rental yields, etc. I'd love to get your perspective.
Yeah, so that's very much true. I have to give you a compliment. You are really, really good. Because
I'm from the baby boomers generation.
You're really, really good, because not many people know about that, or you did your homework before you came. You know what I mean? So that's for sure. That's happening. And it's just, like they're not attached to anything. They could move. They're more, free will. It's like even the jobs, right? The quiet quitting and all that stuff. So like, they want to do home office now. They don't want to be stuck to their one property. It's a lot of switching. So that's the reason that our business is like doing really, really well, or it did really, really well, and it's still doing well. We're growing, but not at the pace we've been growing for the last 10 plus years, because of there's one out of every home, at least in America, is bought by investors. Okay. One out of every home. Wow. One out of every 4 homes. Wow. So to your question, it just validates it. You know what I mean? The institutions and the funds like us, we're owning the most of the homes and collecting the rent. Fascinating. Absolutely.
Fascinating. Mike, you also said,
I love it.
Thank you. Mike, you also said that you have your own IT firm in Bangladesh, and given the amount of homes you must be working with, and you also told me that a client will take a photograph and upload it on your app, I want to get your perspective on how is technology changing your business? Because traditionally, the real estate business has been, very, very slow to adapt, but you seem to have done that very well.
Yeah, traditional is just pen and paper, I mean, pen and paper construction or Excel sheets. But recent years, it's changing quite a bit because we're in another side of the world. We could do that with technology. Before, this wasn't possible even 15 years ago, we're using a lot of machine learning, automation. So like, you could dump in, because we work with photos, right? And videos, because how are we going to know if the guy did something properly all the way on the other side of the world in America? Correct. Where we could QC check, hey, did he do the job properly before, during, and after pictures? Based on that, we build our investors, or we build our internal clients, or we build ourselves, or we build the actual end user, right? With photos. So we need good photos of before, and then action shot, and after. So now our contractors, they'll go and take like 100 of the same photos, right? And you're like, oh my God, it used to take us like hours to process and invoice and bill one property. And because you have to go through all the pictures. Correct. Now with machine learning, we dump it, we already trained the model, and it could spit it out in like less than 30 seconds. So like 1,000 photos, they'll separate all the duplicates. We'll go all the what bedroom is where, what washer machine, dishwasher, kitchen, sink. Like they'll just spit it out for you in like 30 seconds, where it used to take hours. So that improved because of machine learning and all the technology. Wow. But still, it's just ever changing, right? So we have a team here in Bangladesh. They're working, we just did another release last night, another version. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, technology is playing a big role. If you don't adopt, you're going to be left behind. You have to do it. I don't know whatever sector you're in. Even now, right? You're in Delhi, I'm in Dhaka, and we're doing this in an amazing session. This was not, even people didn't even think about it 20 years ago.
Correct. Well said. Well said. My next question is that given the fact that you have, built such amazing businesses, what would you say are some of your key learnings over the last 25, 26 years that you have been working as a businessman that you'd like to share with our audience?
Oh my gosh, so many, so so you could get like depth as you want, or you could get simple as possible too. Simple stuff is like, you got to outwork your competition, you got to be willing to put in the hours. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
If somebody's working 15 hours, you got to do 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
I said this, you could die, you could sleep when you die.
You know
what I mean? I mean, there's so much, but I mean, these are something that you see this on YouTube, or you see it on this Facebook post, like all those motivation speeches. But some of them are just copies of other people, while some of them are true. But if you just follow the simple basic stuff, you just get to be nice to people. You gotta, show up on time. Showing up is like 80%. Like I was here like 20 minutes before I check, make sure to see if you're in. And I check 10 minutes before if you're in. And then I check 5 minutes, and then that's when you're in. So it's like, just a simple stuff, but people, we take that for granted, Learnings is, I think it's the people that are around you. It's having a strong team.
Yeah.
It's having your A players around you. I think that helps a lot, because I think like 3 brains are better than 1.
Correct.
So I always try to get people that are smarter than me, more educated than me. Those are always my thinking, I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. And some of my even junior colleagues, they come up with some of the best ideas and the best, that's what takes our company to another height.
That's it.
That one idea or few people in the company that, it's that Pareto rule, right? 20% of the people in the company is doing 80% of the work. So 20% of the people that's going to make you into $1 million company, not the 80%.
Well said.
Those 20 people that are working day and night, 15 hours a day, and always, even when they're going home, thinking a way to improve process, prospects, how could they give better customer service? They're in for the love of the game, not for the money. So they're the one, it's not you. There's no way, at least not from my perspective, that you cannot build $1 million company or $1 billion company by yourself. That's not possible. So having important people around you, and I think I've been practicing things for years, but what I really learned from EO is, learn from people that have experience rather than somebody that doesn't have that experience. And we love to give advice as humans, and we take that advice. Instead of that, in EO, they teach you entrepreneur organization, they teach you nope, no, you cannot give advice. If you don't know, you just say, I don't know, I'm sorry. Let somebody already has been there, done that. Let them share their experience, and you choose and pick and choose whatever you want experience share you want to take.
Correct.
So, so most of my friends, even when I was 20 years old, I had friends that were 60, 70 years old, double or triple my age. I remember my business, when people used to come into my business to purchase stuff, they would always ask me, is your boss here? Or is your uncle here? Or your dad here? I'm like, something? No, he's not here to let me help you. Because I was so young, didn't take me as serious, but I'm like, something, I will take care of you, I promise. I'll give you a better pricing and better service than my uncle or my boss. Don't worry about it,
Wonderful.
But I will always pick people that are, I always picked people that are older and more wiser, and people that have been through it. I always pick their brains,
Wonderful. I have time for 2 more questions, Mike. My next question is that, given the fact that you run a business in the US, you run a business in Bangladesh, which are 12, 13, 14 hours apart, What would you say is your leadership style?
So my leadership's actually, I'm not sure if I should say this live. I'm a pleaser. No, I did the desk assessment. I do it every so often. It still is the same. Like I did it 5 years ago, same as today, or I did like 2 weeks ago. Still, I'm a pleaser, right? So I need to improve myself. So I like to give ownership. Every so often we have a big group with all the company people. I ask, like, who is the CEO? The new people, they're like thinking, like, what does it mean? Like, or who is the chairman, and who is that? And the older people, they know, they say, I am. So I love to give ownership, and it's okay if they make mistakes, as long as they're not repeating it. So I like to give like a lot of ownership, and my leadership skills is like, we give a lot of training. We give a lot of books. So we have our quarterly books. Even when somebody joins our companies, Apex Family or Kazi IT, just to even join our company, they have to read a book from Dale Carnegie or Jim Collins, Good to Great, or Steve Jobs or Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. They read a book and then they make a presentation. And based on that, they go to the next round of hiring process.
Wow.
So whether they get a job here or not, at least they're going to be a better person than what they came in with it, and when they came on with their contact. And after they join, of course, they have to go through so many books. It's part of their KPI. So like the last book they did recently is called The Go-Giver.
Yeah.
Law of compensation, law of value. So it's a small book, and they all made PowerPoint presentation, and they give to their line manager, and they give to their line manager. And I just got my team, or the 8 people on my under the VPs and COO and CEO. They give me theirs.
Wow.
And I give them mine.
Fantastic.
So every month we have a book.
Wow.
That's part of our like KPI. That's how you get a salary increase. That's how you get the bonuses, profit sharing. It's all tied in with learning. I think I started doing this really early, and I think even Richard Branson talks about this quite a bit. It's like, I really feel like we're more of a training company than anything else. And in the market, like somebody like when they go and get an interview, they tell me, oh, Mike, somebody came from Kazi IT or somebody came from Apex. They were so good. They were like a gem, right? And he was so good. And I'm like, okay, so we lose a lot of people. We lose a lot of people. But then what if we didn't spend the money on training? What if we didn't spend the money on the books? What if we didn't spend the money on time is money, right? So on the present PowerPoint presentations they make, it would be left with a bunch of people that are not that good.
Correct.
I don't want to say a bad language. I don't want to.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely.
We don't want to be a bunch of. We don't want to leave with a bunch of goats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to get the smart guys. So at least they leave, but the ones that are still, they're cream.
Absolutely right. Well said. Well said.
You know what I mean? So we're like very much into like training. We're in scaling up. We have a coach who are paying like $100,000 plus a year. On the coaching us on scaling up, because somebody from the sideline, they could see your business better than even you can.
Well said.
So we're still learning and improvement, and we're still, it's Kanai, right? Constant never-ending improvement. Kanai. Tony Robbins talks about quite a bit of that. It's like we're always improving and learning how to get better. And still failing a lot too, by the way.
No, we all fail. We all fail. I think. And on that note, Mike, and your incredible thought about getting everyone to read a book, which includes you, and then talking about the book, not just from you at the top, but even before you hire someone, and your amazing thoughts of put in the hours, there are no shortcuts, and get a strong team. And you also spoke about Tony Robbins and get yourself a coach and so many different things. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your incredible journey. Thank you for talking to me about Apex Homes, about Kazi IT, and all the wonderful work that you are doing both in the US and in Bangladesh. Thank you again, and good luck.
No, thank you so much for having me and taking your time. So means a lot to me. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.